Are you ready for a Yugoslav Spomenik marathon in Croatia? Am I ready for a Yugoslav Spomenik marathon in Croatia? I'm just finished with the hunt in Slovenia. So here's a Spomenik in Ludbreški, Ivanac, a monument to the Kalnik partisan unit. They put it up in 1985. You don't know what a Spomenik is? Stop this video and watch part 1 of my unforgettable, amazing series, Yugoslav Spomeniks. Here's a Spomenik in Šemovec, the Flame of Revolution Monument, 1973. There's the partisan star. Heading now to Lepoglava. It is a town where former Yugoslav president Tito was imprisoned in the 1930s after the Kingdom of Yugoslavia accused him of being a communist. I'm at the Lepoglava Memorial Graveyard. They put it up in 1981. And this aluminum Spomenik commemorates the many victims who died in this town's prison camp back in Austria-Hungary days, and after that empire fell, even back in the Kingdom of Yugoslavia days. I mentioned that Tito was a prisoner in this town in the 1930s for being a communist. Additionally, the Spomenik is dedicated to the many thousands of victims who were executed right here on this spot during World War II. The monument is surrounded by these cubes, and each cube has a set of names on it. Good morning, Zagreb. I'm still recovering from the Slovenian Spomenik road trip, so I'm going to take it easy today, walk around Zagreb for a couple hours and spit out some simplified version of history related to World War II, probably. This is the square of the victims of fascism. And this building behind me was once the Museum of the Revolution back in Yugoslavia days. Now it's a cultural building. It belongs to the Croatian Society of Fine Arts. It's in fine shape. You got graffiti, you got some broken windows. Zagreb is the capital of Croatia. It's the largest city in Croatia with 800, 900,000 people living in it. During World War II, Zagreb became capital of the independent state of Croatia. That was a puppet state backed by the Nazis and the Italians. And during that time, the city became rife with incidents of terror by the Ustasha regime. Ustasha was a Croatian ultra-nationalist organization who executed thousands of people in the city during the war. Hundreds of thousands of people throughout Yugoslavia. Monument to the executed hostages, 1954. This is the Casualties Monument, built 1938, installed 1951.
Like a walk in the rain, like a soul.
St. Mark's Church, built 1200s, 1300s. The roof tiles are laid out so they represent the coat of arms of Zagreb. please open my museum beer?
Yes, of course.
According to the Hangover Museum, pickle juice can stop a hangover. And what do you call plum rakia in Croatia?
Šljivovica.
Šljivovica, same as Serbia.
Yeah.
Good morning from Zagreb. Now you know what a Croatian haircut looks like. I'm at Podhum Memorial Park, 1968, and this Spomenik behind me was built to commemorate the thousands of civilians who were executed at this site by German and Ustasha forces from 1941 until the end of World War II. A bit more on the Ustasha while I walk this path to martyrdom. The Ustasha, as I mentioned yesterday, were an ultra-nationalist Croatian group, and they functioned as the military arm of the NDH. The NDH was the independent state of Croatia, the puppet state, supported by Italy and the Nazis. And this puppet state was ruled by a Croatian nationalist, Ante Pavelic, whose dream was to create an ethnically pure nation of Croats. So those who do not fall into that category of ethnically pure Croats, that's the ethnic Serbs, the Jews, the Gypsies, Roma, joined up with the communists, formed some rebel groups, and united with Tito's partisan armed resistance. This Spomenik is a monument to those who died on the streets of their city. They put it up in 1981 to mark the 40th anniversary of the uprising of the people of Croatia. The monument depicts an abstract prison and many birds attempting to escape it, alluding to the people of Zagreb attempting to escape fascist rule. If you find yourself in the Balkans, former Yugoslavia, and you're in the mood to meet people, avoid Spomeniks like the plague. I haven't seen a soul at any of these. I think I've been to around 50 of them now. Not a soul. Monument to the revolutionaries before the war, 1985. It's for the revolutionaries and patriots who fell in Zagreb from 1919 to 1941. This was the first memorial project in Croatia. It was akin to what Serbia had already done with Kragujevac. This area of the park is called Valley of the Graves. There are 6 stainless steel sculptures marking the sites of mass graves. They put them up in the 1980s. They put a stone marker wherever a specific body was discovered. This is the monument to the Zagreb citizens killed during World War II. It was built in 1989 and is considered one of the very last Spomeniks built during the Yugoslav-era. Okay, after 2 hours in Podhum Memorial Park, I'm leaving. Must press on. Must press on. In 1943, some partisans blew up several German ammunition warehouses around Zagreb. And to teach the partisans a lesson, Ustasha grabbed 16 anti-fascist civilians and hung them. December 20th, 1943. They put up this 5-meter Spomenik in 1960. It's called the Monument to the December Victims. The monument is meant to represent a collection of hanged bodies.
Making me dread it, love me all the time.
The Broken Ring Monument, 1978. This 11-meter tall Spomenik commemorates the acts of sabotage by the partisans on the Axis-controlled airports around Zagreb. It was part of their plan to break the defensive circle Ustasha and German forces had around Zagreb. Circle, ring, get the symbolism? I've never been to Novi Zagreb before. It's the new part of Zagreb, south of the Sava River. And I was reading there's a lot of Yugoslav-era communist style, big block housing, kind of brutalist or socialist modernism architecture going on there. So let's check it out. Mamutica, it's the Croatian word for female mammoth. It's one of the largest apartment blocks in Europe. 5,000 people live in this building. That brown building behind me is the Church of St. Luke. New money, 2008. Blends right in though with the Mamutica apartment complex. There's the church bell tower. It's another church behind me, Church of the Holy Cross. They built it from 1971 to 1982. I love communist churches. What is this, brutalist? Socialist, modernist? I got no clue. Can't get up to the main entrance because they're doing some construction. I was gonna check out more, so much more in Zagreb. I'm leaving tomorrow. It's getting dark. I'm hungry. I got shit to do. Next time, Zagreb. Next time. Home sweet home. Today's gonna be about a 4-hour drive, ultimately ending in Topusko. Right now heading to Ruča to see something a little different. Spomeniks. Let's shake things up a little bit. There it is. Monument to the Fallen Fighters, 1976. All right. Just a real quick look about the immediate surroundings of that Spomeniks and Ruča. It's a nice looking village. Houses in the area seem to be normally constructed on the bottom, and then it's like they built a log cabin on the top floor. It's a one car at a time bridge across the Sava. Just noticed this while driving, figured I'd stop. Something to do with World War II. Here's another one of those log cabin on the top floor houses. All right, back to the road, heading to Brezovica Forest. Novo Selo Paleniečko in Sisak, and it was here, at this spot, the first armed resistance unit in Europe to combat occupying Axis forces was formed right here under a grand elm tree, June 22nd, 1941, by 10 young communists who fled into these forests of Brezovica from Sisak. It was the beginning of the national liberation movement in Yugoslavia. The Spomenik was put up in 1981. It's 14 meters tall, and it's meant to resemble an elm tree, the grand elm tree these guys met under. You see it? It's a highly stylized version of a grand elm tree, of course. The Spomenik is called Monument to the Detachment in Brezovica Forest. And my voice is echoing. I said 10 communists, but maybe there were 12. There are 12 names here. I put the FJ next to it for scale. I'm excited about this next one. You should be too. I'm visiting what is perhaps Croatia's most famous Yugoslav Spomenik. It's in Podgarić. It's the monument to the revolution of the people of Yugoslavia. It was a bit of a climb up a grassy hill with no trail, but I think it was worth it. Look at this. They put it up in 1967, and the Spomenik commemorates the community's uprising against the Ustaše occupying forces during the National Liberation War, World War II. It's 10 meters tall, 20 meters wide. That's 30 feet by 60 feet. So I was reading that the reason one wing has 3 edges and the other wing has 2 edges, making 5, is that it symbolizes the 5 republics of Yugoslavia. I don't know which 5 republics. I thought there were 6 republics. Yeah, I'm an idiot. There's a road coming up the opposite way. I didn't have to scramble up that grassy hill. I'm back in Sisak. This monument behind me is to Edvard Kardel, 1981. Edvard was a Slovene partisan and a leading member of the Communist Party of Slovenia before World War II. I'm not sure why this Spomenik is here in Croatia. I'm in Viktorovac Cemetery, still in Sisak, and heading to a Spomenik called Zastava, the flag, put up in 1965 to honor the fallen fighters of World War II. Okay, that's it. Done with the Spomeniks today. Got about a half hour before the sun goes down. I hear this is the place to be. Morning from Topusko. So I'm on my way out of town and I passed this guy behind me. That's a monument to the 3rd session of Zavno. Zavno, Z-A-V-N-O-H. That stands for words in Croatian that mean State Anti-Fascist Council of the National Liberation of Croatia. Topusko is a spa town. I'm driving out now, but I saw all of this steam rising up from the side of the road. I wanted to take a quick, closer look. Very sulfury smelling. So today should be about 3.5 hours of driving. And I just saw this surprise Spomenik on the side of the road. This Spomenik commemorates the location of the first partisan airport in the region from 1944. It was used to evacuate the wounded and children to an Allied airbase in Italy. Well, the Spomenik I want to see is around here somewhere. There is very poor visibility here. I'm thinking this must have been a visitor center here. So I'll tell you a little bit about this Spomenik that I can't see through this fog. It's 37 meters tall and 40 meters wide. It's called the Monument to the Uprising of the People of Kordun and Banja. It was completed in 1981. It took 10 years to plan and build. And I think it's the largest Spomenik in Croatia. It's dedicated to the deaths of ethnic Serbs at the hands of the Ustaše militiamen. Long story short, when the NDH was created, the independent state of Croatia, the Ustaše, who wanted to create an ethnically pure nation of Croats, started forcibly removing Serbs from their homes. And the Serb peasants up in this mountain saw what was happening to neighboring villages, and they knew their time was coming. And eventually, in April 1942, the Ustasha did show up, and the Serb peasants were ready for them. About 300 or so of them rushed the Ustasha militiamen with pitchforks, and they were promptly shot and killed. And so don't bring a pitchfork to a gunfight. I think that's the moral of the story here. And this Spomenik is for them, and it's really something. I'm gonna wait till the fog cuts a little bit. I'll give it an hour. Let's go up there. So it's got a metal exterior, but it's 12 stories of poured concrete. I love how the fog is just pouring into this building. It sounds like there's something running in here, doesn't it? Something electric. Upwards and onwards. There's a doorway I don't think I'm going to walk through. Great view. Got some moss growing in the building. I've reached the top of the 12-story Spomenik. All right, I know why I hear electricity. It's for these broadcasting towers, TV or cell phone. And the source. Locked. Found one of the elevator carriages. So I'll go ahead and dub this Spomenik in Petrova Gora National Park the Guggenheim of Spomeniks. Deserved? Okay, so it's been 2 hours and the fog cleared up maybe just a little bit. Here's what you're looking at now. I think I'll find a photo online and put it up so you can see what I was supposed to see. Spomenik pit stop in Vojnić. Croatians aren't using Cyrillic, but there's nothing but Cyrillic on this Spomenik. It says in Serbian, in glory, for those of you who perished or died, those of us who remain are building a better life with our new freedom in Yugoslavia. And they put it up in 1949, the people of Vojnić. All right. Another stop. I'm looking at a warplane with a bunch of birds on it. Too good to pass up. I'm in Karlovac. Look at these clowns. I'm at the monument to Ivan Goran Kovačić. He was a Croatian writer, poet, born here in 1913 to a Croat father and a Jewish mother. Goran is a name he gave himself. It means mountain man. Ivan was killed while fighting in Bosnia by Chetnik fighters in 1943. The inscription here on the base holding up the Spomenik are the first 2 lines of one of Kovačić's poems. It's called My Grave. It says, "May my grave be in the gloomy mountain. May it be surrounded by the howling of wolves. May above it be the murmur of black branches." Well played, sir. Well played. Why would they lock it up? This Spomenik appears to be surrounded by an impenetrable wall. Appears. Looks could be deceiving. Looking for a breach in the wall. Gotta be a breach. It's gotta be a breach. I jumped the wall. You're welcome. Okay, so this is a 22-meter tall obelisk behind me. It's a Spomenik to the victims of fascism. They put it up in 1970. And I'll tell you the story behind this one. June 1942, partisan communist activists killed an Italian teacher and his wife. And to avenge their deaths, 250 Italian soldiers entered the village of Podhum, rounded up every man aged 16 to 64, and shot him with rifles. They burned the village to the ground. Any leftover women and children were shipped off to Italy, to labor camps. And this Spomenik is for those villagers. It's estimated around 130 men from this village were executed in the reprisal killings by the Italians. Back over this wall I go, and it's off to Rijeka. I'm walking on Molo Longo in Rijeka. Molo Longo translates roughly to really fucking long pier. It's 1.7 kilometers long. Got a belly full of beer, black ink scuttlefish risotto. So I'm gonna do the round trip. That is not the Eiffel Tower. That is a freight crane. A gentle nod to Rijeka's industrial heritage. The Capuchin Church of Our Lady. Game of chess? Good morning from Rijeka, Croatia's third largest city after Zagreb and Split. For the record, Rijeka is my favorite city in Croatia. It's a seaside town, it's hilly, it's got great food, truffles and seafood. There's a bar on every corner. It's got grit. It's really lived in. It's not a resort town. Here's a Spomenik, monument to the liberation of Rijeka. They put it up in 1955. It's got typical communist motifs, working class people, war. Croatian and Italian are the popular languages here. But Rijeka is also home to its unique dialect of the Venetian language. It's called Fiuman. Something like 20,000 people speak it. 20% of the population. This port was the largest and most important port in the Kingdom of Hungary back when Rijeka was part of Hungary. Hungary and Italy fought over Rijeka a lot because of its strategic position and its deep water port. These iron pipes above me, it's the monument to the 13 executed victims. They put it up in 1984. It was March 10th, 1945 that 13 anti-fascists were shot right here on these stairs, right as the war was ending. They almost made it. There were 13 of them, so the 13 pipes represent each shot. Rumor is that one man survived by playing dead under the other bodies. And nighttime came, and he snuck into the portico of this neighboring house, wounded and bleeding. And the woman there didn't want to get in trouble, called the fascists, who came to her house and promptly killed the man. That bitch. I'm heading over to see the 385-foot-long ship that Tito used to ferry himself around the Adriatic while he threw some pretty fancy parties for the likes of Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, Gandhi, Gaddafi. The ship is called Galeb, which means seagull. It was built in 1938 in Genoa to ship fruit between Italy and Africa. During World War II, it was appropriated by Italy, and subsequently it was sunk by the Allied forces. Tito had it retrieved from the Adriatic seabed and transformed into a luxurious presidential yacht, as you do. Hope you enjoyed that story about Tito's ship, because that's all you're going to get about Tito's ship. They moved it, they're refurbishing it or turning it into a museum or something. It's not here anymore. This was full this morning. It's homemade alcohol, Croatia. It's kind of like rakia. It's not. It's thick. It's syrupy. I don't know what it is, but it works. Gets you drunk. Haven't gone out yet. It's been raining, but I'm gonna go find some fish. It's a zero Spomenik day today. While I'm searching for fish, I got some fun fact for you. Did you know that in the last 100 years, Rijeka has belonged, well, since 1918, Rijeka has belonged to 7 countries. 6 recognized countries, 1 self-proclaimed country. Austria-Hungary in 1918, that empire fell, became the Italian Regency of Canaro. Then it became the Free State of Fiume. Then the Kingdom of Italy. Then Germany. Then Yugoslavia. Then Croatia. That's in the last 100 years. I love when news of the day talks about territorial integrity. Windy morning today. This is the last thing I'm going to see in Rijeka, and then heading off to Krk Island for a quick stop, and ultimately deep into the Istria Peninsula, heading to Pula. So here's the memorial ossuary to the fallen fighters of Rijeka. They put it up in 1957. Crossing over to the island of Krk now, the most populous island on the Adriatic. So this is the Memorial Park of St. Michael. I'm in Omišalj on Krk Island, and this is the monument to fallen fighters. They put it up in 1975. So people from this town of Omišalj, who now live in America, put up this monument. Now you know what Krk Island looks like. I'm in Partizan Memorial Park in Rubeši, Kastav. This is a 12-meter high Partizan looking out over Kvarner Bay. Now for the long, hard drive to Pula. A couple stops on the way, making the trip a little lengthier. So I'm back on the Istria Peninsula, my favorite peninsula. You may remember that from the Slovenia Spomenik video I put together. Istria has Italy, Slovenia, and Croatia on it. Croatia takes up most of the space, and I like it for the truffles. This is pretty cool, look at this. It's a Tito sign on an old mine building. just stopped at Labin. This is a monument to the minor fighters from 1983. There's no memorial plaque or anything around here, so that's all I can say about that. I was just driving out of Labin and pulled over when I saw this. Can you see that? Another Tito sign, the factory tower. You can see some hammered sickles up there too. Finally, after a long journey, Pula. Now, Pula is always a good idea, no matter how hard it is to get here. I'm told when you arrive at Pula, the Romanian tradition is to spit on it. I don't get it, but my DNA test shows I'm part Romanian, so... It turns out Pula is a hard place to explore when you got a big car. Drove around for about 20 minutes before I found something that wasn't a really tight squeeze. Okay, so this Spomenik is a monument to the rising up of Pula. They put it up in 1954 on the 10th anniversary of the 43rd Istrian Division. 17,000 people fell during the national liberation in Istria County. And many anti-fascist resistance fighters from Istria were tried before a special tribunal in Rome that condemned them to long-term prison sentences or to the death penalty. Bust of Tito. Pula Arena is a large Roman amphitheater built from 27 BC. It's the only Roman amphitheater in the world that has its 4 side towers. I'm gonna come back at night and take some pictures. Here's what $25 bought me in Pula. Sunsets on Pula in about 10 minutes, so just gonna do a quickie here. So true, I do love Pula. Just your random Roman mosaic in a parking lot. They used the stones from the Roman amphitheater to build this Pula Cathedral bell tower. Behind me through these gates is the monument to the shipyard workers in 1968. Drinking some Pula juice, locally made Pula beer. Good morning from Pula. Looking for breakfast. I'm thinking maybe some coffee, Pula cheese, bread. And then off to Rovin and Motovun. Yeah, so that's how you do 14 hours at Pula. I know, not enough. Heading now to Rovin, or as the Italians say, Rovigno. Both names are official town names. Croatian and Italian are co-official languages of Rovin, which, lies on the west end of the Istrian Peninsula, on the Adriatic Sea. From 1283 to 1797, that's over 500 years, Rovigno was the most important town in Istria, governed by the Republic of Venice. So you should be able to spot some Venetian architecture. It's not Venetian architecture, it's Yugoslav architecture. Spomeniks to the fallen NOB fighters, 1956. All right, see something definitely Venetian. It's the Lion of St. Mark up there, symbol of Venice. There's another Venetian lion. Another Spomenik, Anton Buchkowitz. If I had to guess, and I am guessing, I would say this is a World War II bunker. Un cappuccino, per favore. All right, back to the car. Next up, stopping at another Italian-Croatian town in Istria, Motovun, Montona. So Motovun is a medieval town that grew up on the site of an ancient city called Castellieri. It's up on a hill, some 270 meters above sea level. That's 886 feet, I think. On the slopes of Motovun's hill are where grapes for the famous Istrian wines are grown. The forests around Motovun are famous for their white truffles. Couldn't drive all the way up to the top, residents only, so 8 minutes of uphill walking, not so bad, not so good. In 1278, this town was taken over by Venice, so we'll look for that Venetian colonial architecture. About 500 people live in this town. 200 of them speak Italian, about 40%. You know who was born here? Mario Andretti. Yeah, he and his family left after Italy lost Montona to Yugoslavia in World War II. There's the Lion of St. Mark up there. Another one of Venice's lions. The church behind me is Venetian, and closed, of course, COVID. Can't be too careful. Here's a cistern with another winged lion. And another Venetian lion. Oh my God. Well, this bar has a nice view. Voila. History and wine from a vineyard 400 meters away. I reserved the best restaurant in town all for me. Look at those truffles. White truffles. Carpaccio with truffles. And fuji. It's Croatian pasta with white truffles again. Three-hour drive so far today. I'm leaving Croatia. I'll probably exit tomorrow or the next day into Serbia and then through to Romania. I got a Thanksgiving dinner to catch. But don't worry, we'll stop at a few more Spomeniks on the way out. I'm in Grabovac Banski. This is the monument to the first Banja uprising, 1986. I drove 5 seconds and just came across another Spomenik. I don't know what this one is. All right, let's try to see what this plaque says here. Well, they put it up in 1958. Okay, it says over 1,200 innocent people are buried here from the criminal Ustasha hand. Eternal glory to them.
Waking up to action. I guess I'll keep on running. I'm gonna.
Okay, I'm gonna try to knock out 2 more Spomeniks today. The only problem is that the sun sets in about an hour and a half, and I got an hour's drive to go now, and then another half hour after that for the last Spomenik. Let me tell you about where I'm going now, so I don't have to waste time recording while there. No time to waste. Driving to Slabinia to see the monument to the fallen fighters and victims of fascism from Slabinia. It's a 15-meter tall Spomenik that they put up in 1981. A bit of background. When the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was conquered by the Axis powers, this region fell under the administration of the NDH Ustasha militiamen. Now, a lot of this town's residents were ethnic Serbs who needed to be liquidated, so many of them were executed right here, and others were sent to neighboring death camps, such as Jasenovac, which I'm hoping to see. That's the last stop today. Other Serbs joined the partisans and fought back. So this monument is for those Serbs who lost their lives from this region. This inscription lists 547 of the fallen. It's one of the longest inscribed lists of fallen soldiers from any single Yugoslav village. I don't know, man, it's getting dark. I got slow people in front of me. Driving now to the Stone Flower Monument in Jasenovac. That's a Spomenik they put up in 1966. Took 6 years to build, and it's dedicated to the hundreds of thousands of people who were executed at the Jasenovac extermination camp. The stork. So the Jasenovac extermination camp was set up and run here at this location on the banks of the Sava River by the NDH, the independent state of Croatia, and it was administered by the fascist Ustasha forces. Estimates on the high end run from 500,000 to 700,000 people killed here, non-Croats, of course. It was one of the largest single extermination camps in Europe, and the Nazis were not directly involved in this one. Here's a memorial train that transferred people to the extermination camp. All right, now it's getting really dark now. That's the Sava River, and on the other side of the Sava River is another memorial park, but that is in a different country. That's in Republika Srpska, not Serbia, Republika Srpska. It's one of the two entities that make up Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's a country that's made up of two parts. Bosnia and Herzegovina, one entity, and Republika Srpska is the other entity. Nothing to do with World War II, is the Yugoslav wars, but if you're Serbian and you live in Bosnia and Herzegovina, you probably live in Republika Srpska. I think it's made up of like 85% Serbs. That's that for today's Spomeniks, heading to Slavonski Brod for the evening. Today is the 30th anniversary of the fall of Vukovar. Vukovar fell November 18th, 1991. That's when the Serb paramilitaries and the Yugoslav People's Army, the JNA, rolled into town after firing 12,000 shells and rockets into the city for 87 straight days. Something like 3,000 people were killed. Vukovar is the first town in Europe to be completely destroyed after World War II. They're having a memorial service at the cemetery there right now. I'll be there in about a half an hour. So today, November 18th, is a public holiday in Croatia. It's called Remembrance Day, and it commemorates two events that occurred on this day during the Croatian War of Independence, which the Croatians call Homeland War. The fall of Vukovar is one of those events, and the other was the massacre at Srebrenica. I don't know if I said that right, but that's a village where some 60 Croat civilians were killed by the Yugoslav People's Army, the JNA. Looks like all of Croatia turned out for this ceremony. The younger generation doesn't remember the war, of course, but the stories of the previous generation and, of course, all of the evidence of war all over the town keep it tangible. They know which neighbors did what to who in the 90s. After 30 years, I'm surprised at how many houses still have bullet holes on them. It's Goodbye Vukovar procession. It's a several kilometer long walk, and there's still another 2 miles to go. And I decided to turn right and head over to Spomenik, which was my reason to come to Vukovar in the first place. Vukovar 18 was a coincidence, but I can't drive anywhere while the roads are closed for the ceremonies, so gotta walk a mile to see the Spomenik and walk another 2 miles back to the car. So this is Dudik Memorial Park in Vukovar. They put it up in 1980. It's 5 cone monoliths, 18 meters tall, and it's dedicated to the memory of some 455 Serb civilians who were executed by the Croatians, the nationalists, the Ustaše, in 1941. 1 month before the executions began, a notable NDH politician, Mile Budak, gave a speech here in Vukovar, and in that speech he proclaimed, Let the Serbs know our motto is either bow or be removed. And the pendulum swings. 50 years later, the Serbs rolled in and started killing Croatian civilians. Funny how that works. Divisions of the past are still strong here. Pubs are either for Serbs or Croats. Schools are used by both groups, but for example, Serbs in the morning, Croats in the afternoon. Keep them separated. I was reading that on this day, Remembrance Day, the Serbs in this town stay in their homes. The destroyed water tower, riddled with bullet holes, was kept that way intentionally by city planners as a testimony to the events that occurred in the early 90s. This is the confluence point of the Vuka River and the Danube. A memorial white cross was erected. Here it says, for those who fell for free Croatia, in both Croatian and the Glagolitic script, the oldest Slavic script known. And that's Serbia across the Danube, heading over there tomorrow. So the day after Vukovar fell to the Serbs, we have what is called the Vukovar massacre, where the JNA pulled out about 300 Croatians from the hospital here, transported them to a farm, beat them for a few hours, and then shot them all. They've discovered, I think, 200 or 260 bodies that are in the mass grave that I'll check out later. They put this Spomenik up in 2007 in front of the hospital where the JNA picked out their 300 victims for the Vukovar massacre. So the Serbs held on to Vukovar till 1998, and during that time, tens of thousands of non-Serbs were kicked out of the city. For what happened here in Vukovar and in Kosovo and Bosnia, the Serbian president, Slobodan Milosevic, was brought before The Hague, indicted for war crimes, genocide. He died before the trial concluded.
Oh, look at this. A little bit of Brussels in Vukovar.
This is pretty exciting. I picked up some craft beer from Vukovar, and the label's got the damaged water tower on it. So this is the biggest mass grave in Europe after World War II, in which were found 200 victims of the November 20th, 1991 Vukovar massacre of Croatian prisoners of war and civilians by Serb paramilitaries and the JNA, the Yugoslav People's Army. It was the largest war crime since World War II up until that point. hotel tonight is a monastery in Ilok. This wine cellar says they supplied Meghan and Harry's wedding. The monastery walls, my hotel walls, were built as defense against the Turks. 400-something stairs after a few glasses of wine. It's a good time. There we go. Ain't no thing. This is what $25 gets you. This will be my office for the evening. So my hotel in Ilok is right here. It's the St. John of Capistrano Monastery. And these are the defense walls that the priest who runs the hotel, Gregory, was telling me, were built to protect against the Turks. So the church is something like 700 years old, the priest was telling me, although significantly restored, rebuilt in after '98 when Croatia got this land back from the Serbs. And there's Serbia across the river. I think left is Serbia, right is Serbia, behind me is Serbia, up is Serbia. Completely surrounded in this easternmost part of Croatia. Stopped at Principovac for my final coffee in Croatia, and then it's off to Serbia. There's 5 border crossings to choose from. Well, I guess that's it from Croatia. Good Spomenik trip, don't you say? Not bad, not bad.